Get him! Get him, D. No! No, don't do that. No. Get him! No, damn it, I lost. Well, I think that's enough of this game. Wait a second. It's September? How long ago was Part 1 released? Shit!
Objection! Alright, click the butts to see part 1 if you haven't already seen it. This is a 2-part video, so kinda important if you've seen both parts. Now then, back to the main focus. What's this? An amnesia plot that's actually good? Madness! Burn this case at the stake! Good amnesia plots are not allowed to exist! Ah! Nah, seriously. It's good. The reason why this is an amnesia plot done right is that as opposed to other stories involving this trope, we already know who Kay is. Instead of the information being revolved around her trying to recover it, it's more of a motivation than a nuisance. And we get the usual information delivered to us as per usual, but it also helps aid Kay remember who she is without hindering the player or other in-game characters. And as for what goes on other than the amnesia plot, Edgeworth is being brought up to the prosecutorial investigation committee by Judge Courtney to see if he's fit to continue prosecuting. But with there being a murder, what a shock, and the main culprit being Kay, you've got quite a lot to solve. But as things go along, the head of the PIC, Blaise DeBest, confronts you, and you also find out that he's the same person who gave Manfred von Karma that penalty 18 years ago, thus resulting in von Karma killing Gregory Edgeworth. And you also find out that he's a huge asshole to his son Sebastian. He became a prosecutor only because he fixed everything when Sebastian went to Themis Legal Academy. But this guy's real bastardity, if that's even a word, shows when he puts you in the detention center of all fucking places. Then you play a game of logic chess with him, which pretty much reveals his intentions and that he's the murderer of this case. And because he can practically do whatever he wants without consequence at this point, taking him down is gonna be a pretty big challenge. But when you do manage to bring him down, it's one of the better feeling moments because you brought a man who caused all of this to justice. And I don't mean this case specifically. I mean everything wrong he did, even before the series existed. And when all is settled, Kay regains her memory and becomes herself again. But the sweeter victories are yet to come. What was originally the final case of the GBA Ace Attorney, next up we have Turnabout Goodbyes. This case starts out with 2 men on a boat until one of them gets shot. Alright then, who did it this time? Who's it gonna be? Oh my god, there's no way that he did that. There's no way! So your job in this case is to defend Miles Edgeworth, a prosecutor who believes that all defendants are guilty. What Edgeworth is being accused of is that he killed the attorney who got the man who supposedly killed his father not guilty. But the prosecutor for this case is Edgeworth's mentor, Manfred von Karma, an infamous lawyer who hadn't lost a single case in 40 years and is considered a god among the profession. However, some speculate that he went to quite literally anything to get his guilty verdict. Also in this case, we meet Lotta Hart, a paranormal photographer who saw what happened, but her real intentions were to photograph the mysterious Gordy, a monster that appeared in the lake where the murder took place. And guess who caused the very creation of Gordy? Yep, Larry. The Butts has come back to cause some trouble. Fucking scrub sending his steel eyesores into the lake. However, this very trouble would be the thing that saves the case from total guilt. At first, when there's not enough evidence to prove Edgeworth's innocence, the trial ends with a guilty verdict. But then Larry reveals the information that he'd been searching for the deflated steel samurai balloon, so this puts von Karma in a tough spot, as not only is the verdict reversed, but he's at a disadvantage because all of his witnesses had been prepared in advance by him. And with the information Larry presented to the court, this causes the need for the trial to extend to an additional and final day. But as you're investigating, you find out more information on the DL6 incident and how it relates to the current case. Basically, the real murderer got instructions from an anonymous person that told him what to do. This included calling Robert Hammond to the lake, killing him, dressing up like him, calling Edgeworth out to the lake disguised as Hammond, purposefully shooting at the lake so that someone would notice, escape back to the rental shack, call the police, and frame Edgeworth. Also on the note, it says that it's his last chance for revenge. And after more investigating, you find out additional information on the DL6 incident. But when you gather up more evidence that can be used during the trial, Von Karma comes in with a taser and bolts the shit out of you. And when you get back to the trial, you cross-examine the boat renter's parrot, which links him to the murder of Robert Hammond. It also reveals that his real name is Yanni Yogi, the defendant of the DL6 incident. But after he admits his guilt, Edgeworth takes the stand and admits to the murder of his father 15 years ago because he strongly believes that he did it. And as for why he admits to it immediately, it's because the statute of limitations runs out on the case after 15 years. So the trial for that incident starts, but takes a whole turn of events. As you go through it, you slowly unravel the truth of DL6 and that it wasn't Edgeworth who killed his father, but Manfred Von Karma. And the reason he did it? It was because Gregory caught Von Karma doing some dirty behind-the-scenes stuff, and the chief prosecutor at the time gave Von Karma a penalty. While Von Karma did indeed win the case, Gregory did the unthinkable and exposed Von Karma for the things that he does when no one is looking. However, Von Karma got shot in the shoulder through an elevator. This is when he saw his chance to take revenge. And he did this by killing Gregory Edgeworth. But after shedding light to the court, Von Karma admits defeat, and thus the 15-year-long nightmare for Miles Edgeworth has come to a conclusion. And now, the epic conclusion to a game that not many people have played, the Grand Turnabout from Investigations 2. This is quite the end to an Ace Attorney game. One of the things I like is that it literally takes place only 9 minutes after the previous case. And right off the bat, we find that the president of Zhangfa, Dijun Huang, dead from being crushed under a large object. And it was in the middle of a movie set as well. Great! But as the progression continues, we find out that the president that died in this case was not the one we originally thought he was. It turns out that he was really the body double of the original Dijun Huang, who had been murdered by the ruthless assassin, Sirhan Dojin, who was only trying to see his son for the first time. Hell, the guy even accepts that he's going to be murdered, but he asks that he be allowed to see his son, who's John Marsh by the way. But that doesn't go down too well, as he's killed anyways, but someone managed to catch the murderer and draw it on a picture. It was then set up to look like a kidnapping, where the body double took over as president of Zhangfa afterwards, and nobody even knew about it. And it turns out that there were others conspiring with the double, those being the villains of cases 2 and 4, Patricia Rowland and Blaise DeBest, respectively. And this is all the way back in 2007, and this game is in 2019. So this kind of thing has been going on for 12 years now. That when all things get figured out, i.e. proving that Justine Courtney and her son didn't kill the double, it all comes back to one person, the true mastermind behind everything happening in the game. From the attempted assassination of the president, to the murders of Horace Knightley and Jill Crane, all tracing back to who we expected least of all. Simon Keyes. You know, that incredibly timid person back in the imprisoned Turnabout who was the wrongfully accused suspect of murdering his friend? Yeah, that guy. He's going all John Wayne Gacy on us and becomes the killer clown. Those guys don't bring joy, they bring terror! Simon says that he was neglected by his father, who he thought was Pierre Hoquet, but was really Dane Gustavia. He also knew about all 3 conspirators and wanted to take revenge on them. He hired Shelley de Killer to assassinate the president, he infiltrated the prison where Horace was being kept in and got involved in a chess game between him and Siren, which caused suspicion upon Patricia, and she killed Horace, and then he sent the letter to Kay Faraday where she lost her memory and was identified to be the killer, but in short it was really Blaise DeBest. And he finally killed the imposter president by himself by dropping a hot air balloon on him. But the fact that he totally changed and was secretly the mastermind is not only what concludes this case very nicely, but is what also makes him a great villain. And hey, at least he's a better clown than Mo, am I right? Seriously, Phoenix's joke about him being the best lawyer ever was funnier than this guy. Dual Destinies! Now this is an ace attorney game. Not as much as good old number 3, but it certainly manages to hold a candle to TNT. Phoenix returns to the courts. We play as 3 different lawyers. It's so glorious! And it's also packing quite a few good cases, particularly the final case, Turnabout for Tomorrow. The series itself was already pretty dark, but this case, I'd say it's the darkest of them all. Not only is it dealing with a traumatic event involving Athena, but a hostage takes place as well, where people could end up dying. Not to mention that Simon's execution date is literally the very next day. So, with the prosecutor about to die, who's gonna take his place? It's edgy!
I trust you've been well, right?
Ah yes, the cliched Edgeworth must return for the final case. After 10 years of not having faced each other in a courtroom, Phoenix and Edgeworth get to face off against each other once again. And in the process of this case, we find out just why Simon became a convict in the first place, why Athena became a defense attorney, and why Apollo went to look for his own truth. But the biggest shock of them all is finding out who the real killer is.
What the fuck?
The justice-loving detective we've been seeing throughout the whole game was the real bad guy. Holy shit! But in the end, it's nice to have all things cleared up. Giving him the triple objection finger by all 3 lawyers feels oh so satisfying. No more Athena believing she killed her own mother, no more convict prosecutor, and no more false justice. All that's left is to make Athena Sykes ace attorney. Please, Capcom. Perhaps my most questionable choice ever, but I freaking love Recipe for Turnabout. Alright, I could see people's reasonings as to why they don't like this case, but guess what? I don't give a shit. This case is fucking amazing. Something I haven't brought up is that the 3rd cases in Ace Attorney tend to be pretty hit or miss. Hits being this one and 2 more that you'll be seeing later on. Misses being Turnabout Samurai and Serenade. But Recipe does manage to do many things right. So this one starts off with trial where Winston Payne is the prosecutor, and he apparently won. Okay, wow, this guy must suck at his job if he lost to Winston freaking Payne. I can't wait to see who the... What? It was us? Phoenix fucking right lost to Winston Payne. Fish and mailed. Fish and mailed. Paradox. Paradox.
Paradox, 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 paradox.
But thankfully, that was just the phony Zin Eop who was only posing as Phoenix. So the client for this case is the one from the Lost Turnabout, Maggie Bird. Now it relies on you to not only prove Maggie's innocence, but also find the faker who posed as you. And it's pretty obvious who that is. Looking for someone who looks kinda like you? How about the big orange guy over here? But the main reason why I love this case is the hilarity in it. Gene Armstrong, Victor Kudo, and the previously mentioned Furio Tigre, an incredibly flamboyant chef whose actions just speak for him, a bitter old man who throws goddamn seeds, and a big scary guy who's the practical incarnation of John DiMaggio.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
Great characters aside, this is certainly one delicious case. At least more delicious than Armstrong's food. Oh, look who it is! Apollo Justice is showing its face around here again. After that glorious first case, what else do you have to offer? Get that shit out of here. Better, but still not that good. Alright then, bring on the time travel! This is certainly the strangest final case in the series, as it involves time travel of all things, but it gets the job done quite nicely. So the start of this case is that Apollo is taking a client as per usual. However, Phoenix tells him that it's not going to be like a usual trial. Instead of the bench trial system that's been used in all cases prior to this one, the jury system is being used as a test in this case. And it was Phoenix himself that set it up. The defendant in this case is Vera Misham, who is accused of poisoning her father, Drew, famous artist who's never been seen by anyone. But it turns out that he wasn't an artist, but a forger, and his daughter assisted in the creation of them. And one of the forgeries was a diary page that was used in a trial years ago. But just as what specific trial the page was used in is about to be revealed, Vera falls onto the ground due to ingesting an almost lethal amount of the same poison that killed her father by accident. And then we go into the past, the very case where Phoenix lost his attorney's badge, to be specific. It focuses on Zach Gramerai, a famous magician who's being put on trial for the murder of his mentor. It's also Clavier's first case as a prosecutor. This part is a nice throwback. It's got the old courtroom, the classic themes from Moderato to Pursuit, and even Gumshoe makes an appearance. We missed you, big guy. Phoenix is handed a paper by Trucy, who was told to give it to him by someone, and this was that alleged forged diary page. When Claver brings in Drew Misham and confesses that he made it, Phoenix now loses the trial and later becomes disbarred. After this comes the time travel segment, where you play as Phoenix and go to 8 different points in time, 4 in the past and 4 in the present. And all kinds of information is given to you, like Zach was really Shady Smith, neither Zach nor Valent shot Magnify, and Apollo and Trucy are really siblings.
What a twist!
But Christoph Gavin shows up again in prison, and he's put into the light. Even at one point where you use the Magatama, and not only do Cyclops show up, but black ones do. Something that Phoenix describes as dark, cold, and full of despair. Then you're back to the present day, where your main goal at this point is to prove that Christoph was the one who not only murdered Drew, but poisoned Vera as well. But he outsmarts you like you know absolutely nothing. However, just as Christoph is about to get away, Clavier stops him and informs him that this time, evidence isn't needed, as the verdict will be decided by the people. This makes Christoph just a little angry, but Apollo tells him that the one who set up the jury system in the first place was Phoenix Wright. And this causes Christoph to totally lose it in what I can describe as one of the most satisfying breakdowns ever. A great end to a pretty good game. Oh look, another third case, but in this one you play as Athena. Automatically good, 10 out of 10, best case, good night. Turnabout Academy has you playing as Athena as opposed to Phoenix or Apollo. Probably the largest factor as to why I like this one. Seriously, we all know how I feel about her. This one starts out with the Anything Agency minus Trucy visiting Themis Legal Academy to attend a mock trial written by Athena's childhood friend, Juniper Woods, the defendant from the first case. But when the mock trial happens, the victim in that becomes an actual victim of murder, and Juniper becomes the main suspect. But then Athena shouts out that she's gonna be the one who defends Juniper, and shit gets real. So we instantly believe that she didn't do it and look for the one who really killed Constance Court. So at first suspicions go to 2 people, Robert Newman and Hugh O'Connor, Juniper's 2 best friends, also acting as the defense with Hugh and Robin as the prosecution in the mock trial. The suspicion falls on Robin because he, or should I say she, was in the room that Juniper and Constance met in. Suspicions towards Hugh appear because a voice recording comes up where at one point it sounds like his name is being spoken. But one thing leads to another, in which it boils down to Aristotle Means as the main culprit. He pays no mind to it at first, really, but when you present evidence, he goes back to Greek times and goes all professional high school teacher on us.
No breathing!
But when proven that he's the one who did it, Means gives one of the most entertaining breakdowns in the series. He writes down on his chalkboard what his punishment should be, from retaking the bar exam to salary cuts to getting fired, and finally a guilty sentence. Also, that Metal Gear reference. Oh, looky here, we have 2 third cases in a row. This ought to be good. It's from Investigations 2, eh? Okay, I'm sure it'll be good. Oh my god, this case is fucking glorious! In this turnabout, not only do you play as Edgeworth, but you play as Edgeworth! Stad. Yep, this is the last case Gregory Edgeworth ever worked on before his unfortunate demise. The first part is as Gregory back in 2000, then to Edgeworth in 2019, back to Gregory, and to conclude this amazing case, solving it with Edgeworth. What I particularly like about the Inherited Turnabout is that it answers some questions that probably quite a few of us had, like who the defendant was, what the charges were, the location of where it took place. This case answers all of those questions. So your client is famous dessert TV chef Jeff Masters, who's being charged with the murder of one of his competitors that was participating in his competition, which revolves around the contestants making large desserts, entire objects specifically, and if anyone can beat Jeff Masters, they get a book known as The Angel's Recipe. In this part, we see 2 returning characters, Tyrell Bad and Manfred von Karma, the slimy bastard. Gonna commit a murder in about a year and doesn't even know it. When Gregory challenges Von Karma's claim and defeats him, he allows Gregory to follow him, but no investigation be allowed. But to the surprise of both Von Karma and Gregory, the two Sherbert sculptures the victim had created mysteriously disappeared. Fast forward to the present day, where Edgeworth and Ray visit the museum that was once Jeff's mansion, where they take a trip down memory lane, up until we see the return of Larry, goddammit, and one of the biggest contestants from the IS-7 incident, Dane Gustavia, who's been poisoned by lethal gas. As if finding a poisoned chef come out of a room so suddenly, but then the victim from so many years ago appears in the fountain smack dab in the middle of the mansion. And traveling back to Gregory Edgeworth, where the sculptures have been discovered melted, to Von Karma's unaware inconsistency to what happened, in which Von Karma was penalized for it and killed Gregory, then back to the present where Isaac Dover's body has been frozen by Catherine Hall all these years, and Dane Gustavia, due to all these regulations of the statute of limitations, is caught for his crime 18 years ago, where Jeff Masters is finally freed. Gregory's work is finally finished through his son, which is what I can describe as one of the most satisfying Ace Attorney moments, and the end to my favorite non-final case in the series. Isn't there a game we appear to be missing? Something kinda justice for all-y? Oh yeah, Farewell My Turnabout exists. It's pretty freaking amazing. The previous cases in the game were okay, but this one takes the amazeballs meter and cranks it up to over 7,000. It starts out with Phoenix, Maya, and Pearl going to a show at the Gatewater Hotel involving a bunch of children's TV shows. The two main ones being the Nickel Samurai and the Jammin' Ninja, and the stars of those shows being Matt on Guard and Juan Corrida respectively. The two had a big rivalry with each other, with one always trying to be on top of the other. But lo and behold, Juan's been murdered and the main suspect is Matt. And you also get a call from someone by the name of the Killer who's kidnapped Maya, and in order for her safe return, a full acquittal of Matt is required. He wants this because he knows for a fact that Matt didn't do it, and you're inclined to believe he's innocent because everyone's been wrongfully accused of murder prior to this one. And because an acquittal is needed the very next day, not only are you looking for evidence to prove Matt's innocence, but you're also looking for who really did it. And main suspicions go to Matt's manager, Adrian Andrews. However, when the trial starts, Francisca has been shot by the Killer in an attempt for the trial to come to a speedy conclusion. But guess who takes her place? Yep, Edgeworth. After 2 cases of getting whipped constantly, it's nice to have our favorite red-coated prosecutor back on stand. As you go along the case, you begin to juggle between Adrian and Matt on who really did it, as both seem suspicious and have a motive. But it's then revealed that neither of them killed Juan, but it was a famous assassin by the name of Shelley the Killer. So now the question is, who hired the Killer? When it all comes down to figuring out who paid that filthy money to do the dirty deed, it all leads back to Matt and Guard, who totally stabs you in the back and becomes all scar-faced and magic. Seriously, where the fuck did that wine glass come from? And what the hell is he even drinking? At this point, it becomes incredibly thought-provoking. You're defending someone who admitted to hiring an assassin, but you need to get him off the hook in order to save Maya. So what do? Let a killer go free in order to save your friend that you care so deeply about? Or sacrifice that friend to get proper justice served? It really does make you think quite a bit. But in the end, not only are you able to save Maya, but you get Matt and Guard a guilty verdict as well, and it feels so good. But only one case manages to beat it. Let's find out what could possibly beat such an amazing bit of story. Okay, because this was such a large list, I'm gonna go ahead and do the old recap. Number 20, The Golden Court. Number 19, The Kidnapped Turnabout. Number 18, Rise from the Ashes. Number 17, Turnabout Beginnings. Number 16, Turnabout Ablaze. Number 15, The Final Witch Trial. Number 14, The Stolen Turnabout. Number 13, Turnabout Reminiscence. Number 12, Turnabout Trump. Number 11, Turnabout Memories. Number 10, The Forgotten Turnabout. Number 9, Turnabout Goodbyes. Number 8, The Grand Turnabout. Number 7, Turnabout for Tomorrow. Number 6, Recipe for Turnabout. Number 5, Turnabout Succession. Number 4, Turnabout Academy. Number 3, The Inherited Turnabout. And number 2, Farewell My Turnabout. You may have seen this one coming, but I don't care, because Bridge to the Turnabout is absolutely 100% fucking amazing. Near perfect, in fact. It concludes everything just so amazingly. It wraps up the Ace Attorney trilogy so fucking well that's almost done too good. Anyways, this case starts with Maya and Pearl discussing with Phoenix about going to a temple where spirit mediums can train even further to become better. Phoenix refuses at first because it's on top of a mountain and he'll most likely be cold as hell if he goes up there. But then he sees the news article where it was announced and the picture of Dahlia Hawthorne, or so we think, is there. So Phoenix agrees to go with Maya and Pearl in order to see if it's really Dahlia or not. When they arrive, they're met by the head nun Bikini, Elise Donham, a famous picture book author, and the assistant nun, Iris, the person in the picture. Later on, Phoenix meets up with her again while she's going to ring the bell for lights out and check on Maya as she's doing her training. But then a lightning storm hits the bridge that connects the main area to where Maya is training, thus setting it on fire. But Phoenix crosses the flaming bridge anyways and falls off of it. Fortunately, he survives the fall into the river, but as we find out, at least Donham has been murdered and Iris is under the suspicion of doing so. With Phoenix hospitalized, who's going to take Iris's case? Well, Edgeworth could. So yeah, we're actually playing as Edgeworth in this part. It's pretty nice seeing his reaction to the things that Phoenix has seen before, like being a defense attorney in the Cyclops. But what's next? We get a different prosecutor? Yes, actually. As opposed to Gatto, we get Francisca. Yay! After going through the first trial, we're back to playing as Phoenix again, and the main goal now is to rescue Maya so that he can confirm her safety. But due to the bridge being destroyed, that's gonna be kinda difficult. It gets fixed, so Phoenix and Edgeworth continue further investigation. Pearl is also recovered, having gone missing, where she says that she came over here because she was worried about Maya. But as the team investigates, more information is given, to where we discover that Elise Donham was really Maya's missing mother, Misty Fey. And other shocking sources include that Iris was the twin sister of Dahlia under Morgan Fey, but they eventually got separated, with Iris being taken to the temple and Dahlia going with her father because he got remarried. So the second trial commences, where things begin to get real. It turns out that this was all just a ruse set up by Morgan Fey in an attempt to kill Maya. How did she do it? By getting Pearl to follow the instructions that were written for her. Basically goes like this: go to the temple where at night you're gonna summon scary demon lady in order to kill Maya so you can become new master. As it turns out, the person on the stand was not Iris, but the spirit of Dahlia in another's body. She admits to everything because she solely believes that she won and took her revenge on Mia Fey. But the thing is that she was outsmarted by Misty Fey and Gatto. He informed her of the plans that Morgan had been making with Pearl, so then Misty summoned Dahlia's spirit so that Pearl couldn't. But this would unfortunately lead to her demise. When Dahlia finds out, she becomes enraged and does all this exorcist stuff on us. And as the judge put it, it'd be best that the spirit of Dahlia never be summoned again. But this pretty much proves Iris's innocence, so the trial can end, right? Wrong. Gatto challenges Phoenix to find the real killer, because without that, Iris remains the main suspect. But all she admits to is being an accomplice. Just as the next session is about to start, Mia says that the real killer was someone who was on the other side of the burning bridge, and that they knew of Dahlia's plan from the beginning. In other words, Gatto. You pretty much know that he's the one who did it. But personally, I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to suspect him of murder, but I had to. And going along with this last trial is one of the most difficult and intense moments in the entire series. All the things add up together to where it's absolutely inevitable that you prove Gatto's guilt. You have to do it. Maybe this is just me not wanting to put away such a great character, but you have to. When it all adds together, the main point being where Gatto could have hidden his wound without getting blood on his clothes, it's incredibly intense. But when it's all been proven, and Gatto sees the fighting spirit of Mia Fey living on through Phoenix and his mask exploding, you know that you just won. Then Gatto admits to everything, and saying that he never liked Phoenix up until now. That when he saw Mia's spirit within Phoenix, he gained full respect for him. Then he utters the tears quote, which is one of my all-time favorites. One last cup of coffee is shared with Phoenix, and the trilogy wraps up. So does one of my favorite games of all time. Well guys, this concludes Ace Attorney Month. I hope you all enjoyed the work I put into this series of videos. It has been fun, but all things must end eventually. I'd like to give very special thanks to Countdown Black for collabing with me back in Top 10 Ace Attorney villains, plus Mega Man NG, Z-Slicer, and Skawo, as they are the sources of where majority of this footage I gathered came from. So those guys' channel are in the description. As always, like if you liked the video, and subscribe if you want to see more content. Have a grand day and go drink some coffee. Not too much though, that's bad for your health.
The testimony contradicts the evidence. No. Fuck.